And welcome to a absolutely awesome episode of Dogma Debate, because today we have Kelly. Kelly is a Christian. Kelly is somebody that I've debated a little bit over the years, over the internet. This is the first time we've talked face to face. And I only say that because we're on StreamYard and I can see Kelly's face and he can see my face. We're not in the same room. And Kelly happens to believe that atheists have no reason to doubt the existence of God. And I'm an atheist and I do doubt the existence of God. So this is an argument I want to hear. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I've always thought that the show and comments that you make them in a reasonable manner. And I try to do the same, although I get out of shape as well sometimes. But I try to stay on a reasonable level. If you start yelling at someone, it just makes it so nobody hears anything.
Oh, for sure. And this is something that I think that both Christians, atheists, and Beatles fans alike can all agree on, which is all you need is love. That arguing and yelling and screaming and yelling and pulling your hair out and having your eyes bulge out and losing your mind never convinces of anyone of anything other than I don't want to be on the same side as this guy who's screaming and yelling and losing his mind. So obviously I find a polite, good-hearted conversation is always going to be more effective anyway. So we'll keep the screaming to a minimum.
Okay, that sounds good.
Let's just be super frank about what my definition of atheism is, which is just simply that the burden of proof, which is on the person making a claim, has not been met by anybody that believes that there is a deity of any kind. So, it's pretty general. I'm not specifically bashing any religion. I'm saying every deity claim I've come across, they're the one making the claim. They have the burden of proof, and they have yet to show me any proof. How are you different, Kelly?
Well, let me address the first part first, is that I think anybody who's making following a hypothesis,
right,
they have to have reasons to follow it. So right off the bat, I disagree with you a little bit in that, yes, as a Christian, I have to make my Christian theist. I have to make my argument and I have to provide some sort of reasonable proof.
Right.
But I believe that atheism has to do the same, because you're saying that God doesn't exist. So when you approach me as saying God does exist, okay, what proof do we have in the surroundings around us that would show that he does? Okay, right. I'm good with that.
That's fair. And I'm just going to clean up a tiny little bit, because some atheists, we believe in something called hard atheism and soft atheism. And what you just stated was the hard atheist position, which it does require a claim. Absolutely. God does not exist. I'm stating it here and now. God does not exist. What I presented you is much more of a soft atheist approach, which is, I'm not saying God doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen proof for it. So that is where I'm coming from. Technically, but in truth, if I'm being honest with you, Kelly, and you are a nice gentleman, and I want to get along with you, so I think being honest up front, you kind of have me on that one. I would say the Christian God, I've explored that one to the point where I kind of am tempted to say the Christian God does not exist. That I'm not closing the door on prime mover or the simulation or any of these other versions of a higher power that I've heard out there. But as far as the Christian God goes, yeah, I've explored that one enough where I kind of do have a hard atheistic stance on that. So you got me. Maybe I do have a little burden of proof there.
Okay. So you said prime mover. That's a lot of my arguments. You probably see me on Facebook quite a bit.
Yeah.
My arguments is towards that, the prime mover, because based on the fact, and this is generally accepted, the universe did have a start. It's 13.6 billion years old. That's what they say.
Right.
And if you're judging by age, then we judge everything by age the same way, from the start till present. So I think it's pretty clear, plus entropy comes into play as well. But I think it's pretty clear the universe did have a start. And if it did have a start, it didn't start out of nothing.
Well, I mean, those are assertions that you're making. Scientists would say otherwise.
Well, no, not on the start of the universe. That's pretty well accepted.
Well, what they say is that we don't know. It's just a big question mark, that when you dial back to the Big Bang, you hit this period where we can account for everything until you get to whatever it is, a second after the Big Bang. And you go before that and the laws of physics break down. And what we get is a big fat question mark. We don't know. We don't understand. Nobody's saying there has to be a prime mover. They're just saying we've reached a mystery.
Doesn't cause and effect come into play at that point?
Absolutely, but you're making up a cause. Now you would have to then offer up proof for that cause. You're saying you have the cause for the universe.
The effect we see is the universe. That's our effect, and I'll get into life too. But for now,
Right.
the effect that we see is the universe, and it does exist.
Absolutely.
So, and entropy alone is and math are both evidences that it did exist. It did have a beginning before it existed.
In its current form, it had a beginning. That it was what's much smaller.
And what you were saying, the 1 second before and after, that's what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about the second before.
Right. Well, the second before, again.
Let's assume that the whole Big Bang thing coming down to a singularity. Let's assume that's right. I'm not big on that, but let's assume for a second.
Oh, interesting that you're not big on that.
I'm not. I'm big on the fact that it had a beginning.
It had a beginning.
Yes. And 1 second before that, there was nothing.
Right. Well, here's the thing, Kelly, and I'm just going to rep because we are talking about things that I personally cannot comprehend with my little lizard brain. But I know you do. That's why I said it. But what a scientist would tell you is that because time and space came into existence with the birth of the universe or the start of the universe, that the idea of what happened before that doesn't make sense. That's like saying what's north of the North Pole. The question doesn't actually compute. That time and space had a start as well. So if time had a start, to say what happened before time is kind of a question that doesn't make sense to a scientist.
I would disagree again. The fact that above dimensions above ours, that's well documented. There's lots of people in the scientific community that talk about that.
Dimensions above our dimensions?
Yeah, there's 11. I think there's 11. Maybe.
I think you're talking about string theory, which,
I'm not saying that I agree with string theory, but
right. Well, string theory is not proven. String theory is a hypothesis.
Speculation.
Right, and it does talk about other dimensions. You're correct about that, but again, that is not something that's been proven. So
it's considered, and the reason why it's considered. Let me just go here. Let me just hear for a minute.
Please,
yeah. My level of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. I can't say that it's beyond a possible doubt. It's possible that neither you or I exist. Mike, we're both figments of our imagination, or aliens landed and made us little. Illusions, but
sure.
Bypassing that, going into the reasonable doubt, which our court systems need. I think the fact that our existence did start, and you said time's the aspect of our dimensions: time, space, matter, and energy. And that's according to Hawking and Penrose. And those four existed at when it started, and they exist now. But it didn't exist before that, because it did have a start. So if you consider that the start part, and things began at a certain point, whenever you think that might be, there was a decision made to me that there was going to be a start. And it seems to me that the best explanation for decisions is personhood.
Okay, so you say decision, but that is you just inserted decision. That there's no evidence to suggest that the start of the universe was something making a decision. It could have been a natural. Does the ocean make a decision to make ocean waves? Does the earth make a decision to have an earthquake? These are not decisions. These are natural processes playing out, as the start of the universe might very well be as well.
You and me agree on the ocean part because it doesn't have intelligence. But right. The aspect of the universe is designed. We're going a lot of topics here. But the universe does have a design, and it is designed for life. We are here. But as far as the no evidence factor, I disagree, because in fact it did come into existence at a certain point.
Right.
Before that there was nothing. So nothing
right.
Nothing in our four dimensions. There was no time, no space, no matter, no energy. Because those had to start. Well,
no, hold on. Again, you're jumping a little bit, Kelly, because we don't know that. You say there was no time. There's we know that our universe, as we understand it, started at a certain point, and that time, energy, and all those things came into existence in our universe. Now, many scientists, and they are smarter than me and they understand these things better than me, talk about the multiverse. That just like we once believed our galaxy was the universe. We were like, this is it. This is the whole universe. We totally get it. And then somebody, I think it was Edwin Hubble, was like, what are those wafty little splotches in the, oh, those are other galaxies. Oh my God. This thing just keeps going. It's turtles all the way down. And one might say that the universe is the same. Like, hey, we're in this one universe. What are those splotchy little clouds I see in the distance? My God, those are other universes. Now, obviously, that is just me.
Steven Weinberg
Yeah.
said that the multiverse theory is pure speculation.
Right. Absolutely. As is string theory. But as is...
What we do know exists is this universe. We know this one exists.
We know this universe exists. That's
the other one's is just speculation.
Right. But you're inserting a decision and a decision maker into the beginning, which again is without proof. So as an atheist,
I assert it with evidence. Everything that we know, like without testing it, like gravity, we can test that. It doesn't have to be an assertion. But when we go back into history, everything's an assertion. I mean, me saying that the Bible is a reliable document, that's an assertion, but I can show some proof for it. Now, can I produce the original one? No, I can't. But when you say assertion, I grant you that they're backed up. And I think I've provided some proof that that's true. Because Hawking and Penrose, they both said the universe had to start. Time, space, matter, and energy had to start.
Right, yes. I agree with that. But where did they start from? Did they come from another universe? Was there something pre-existing before that? Was there this
pre-existing? Me and you agree on that, because there has to be.
Well, no, I actually don't know. And I do know that in the subatomic level that there is definitely particles that pop in and out of existence from our perspective, from the way we understand it, that they, things get very, very strange on the subatomic level. In fact, I'm sure you know the observer effect and the slots, the slit experiment when they're firing protons through. And things start to act really weird when you talk about the subatomic level. And we try and think of them in terms that we understand. We imagine the electron and the proton. Well, maybe they're like the moon or a planet, orbiting a central point, which is the nucleus and all that. But that's just our human brains trying to understand something that doesn't make sense to us. And the universe, in a lot of ways, is still a very, very unsolved mystery. So trying to answer questions that we don't have answers to with what I would call made up stuff doesn't help get us any closer to the truth. Sometimes the question mark is best left a question mark until there's evidence to remove the question mark.
I believe that the cause and effect physics principle tells us that when things do begin to exist, they have a cause. And
yes,
that's just physics.
Sure.
Now,
yeah.
Can you apply that to the universe? I believe you can.
I would say that there's a cause.
Based on entropy, meaning entropy, things get less and less orderly.
Right.
And as time goes on, it gets less and less orderly. Trying to make the universe to be infinite, I believe that not only violates entropy, but also violates math. If you're going to say that the universe has always existed, then a mathematician would ask you, okay, where's the middle point? It's always existence. Tell me where the middle point is.
Of course. Infinity is a tricky thing to throw.
But those arguments are against having the universe always existed. And I think most cosmologists will tell you that's reasonable to think that it has always existed.
Well, let's just be clear, Kelly. So I think we're both saying that our universe, as near as we can tell, came into existence, what did you say, 13.6 billion years? And so, yes, that our universe came into existence as we know it, as we understand it through the Big Bang and then inflation and all those other things at a certain point of time. But the idea that it necessarily came from nothing, we don't have proof for. In fact, we don't even have proof for nothing. We don't know that nothing can exist. There's nowhere in the universe where you can point to and say that's nothing. So the idea of nothing is never actually been proven. There is no nothing in the universe. Even if you go to empty space, there are magnetic fields, there are the nuclear forces, gravity. These things still exist. It's not nothing. So the idea of there being nothing the universe might not allow for nothing. There might not be nothing.
Well, can I quote Stephen Hawking?
There are so many reasons to love California.
We believe in freedom,
including the freedom to make our own decisions about abortion.
But anti-abortion politicians want a national abortion ban, and that would include us in California.
We can't let them do that.
Scott Baugh supports a national abortion ban,
while Dave Min will protect access to abortion.
Vote Dave Min for reproductive freedom.
Paid for by Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California. Votes PAC. www.wedecideca.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
At BDO, we know it takes time to stay up to speed on the rapidly changing retail and consumer products industry. That's why we're doing the legwork for you in our new BDO podcast, 60 Second Retail. We'll keep you in the know on events and trends impacting your bottom line in just a few short minutes, so you can spend your time where it counts most, running your business. Check out the latest episode now at www.bdo.com/60-second-retail.
Please, of course. I love it.
In his last book, Stephen Hawking said, based on the fact that the laws of physics exist, in particular, this quote from him, based on the fact that the laws of physics exist, and in particular the law of gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Those are his words. Now, I talk to atheists a lot, Michael, and they tend to take words and try to say they don't really mean what they mean. When he says nothing, he means the absence of everything that we know. Time,
right.
Space, matter, energy. Those are nothing. Now, before that, I would say that there's spiritual being. That's me, because I believe in God exists. But if you want to go down that path, you don't want to go down that path, then simply the path that nothing can't create something. There has to be something there to be able to generate what we see. So that's my argument, and I think it's a strong one.
Well, it's certainly a strong one. It's certainly a strong argument that there was something had to have caused the universe, and that is just, again, my
said that at the start.
But again, that's my simple brain trying to make sense of it. But let me just divert for a second, Kelly, to just how little we know and how little the universe makes sense to us. And I believe, and you're going to say you don't believe, that we are evolved apes from the plains of Africa. And
that's another subject. We can talk about it if you want to, but
I would love to, and I'm happy to get into that. But just this is my perspective for the moment, and I invite you to poke holes in it. But and there was nothing in our evolved experience as our brains were evolving that needed us to understand complex stuff like the expansion of a universe, or even huge numbers like million and billion, which is how many years human beings have been here / the universe has been here. These are swaths of time that we can't even begin to comprehend. There's nothing about our evolved brain's experience that would have led it to say that, hey, what makes sense to me is that the closer you get to a massive object, the slower time goes. Or that if I were to get into a rocket and go close to the speed of light, time would slow down for me. And when I returned to Earth, hundreds of years would have passed for the people on Earth, but only a few years would have passed for me. These things make no sense. And as recently as the 20th century, scientists said, look, we are down to two theories on the universe. It is expanding, but we don't know if it's slowing down, but will never stop. There's not enough energy to stop it. It'll just slow it down. Or if there's enough energy to stop it and reverse it, and they called that the big crunch. And so they did the math. They looked into it. They did the red shift, blue shift with all that stuff. They went, holy cow, it's speeding up. The thing we never, ever thought of is happening. The universe makes no sense to us from our personal experiences and our evolved brains that were evolved to see seasons change and migration of animals and things like that. That's what we're evolved for, not for these complex ideas.
Well, there's people that do think about those things, Mike. So I think God gave us, okay, putting God in there, but I'll put it in again. God gave us the brains to use to determine those things. Not only that, but he made it so that it is understandable. You can actually determine the fact that the universe is expanding. You can actually determine that. Hubble did that in 1929.
Right. We can determine that.
That was a mental exercise.
Right.
All he saw was that things were red shifted. And at that point, he said, well, hold on. If they're red shifted, that means they're going away from us. Based on the fact that we now have spectral intelligence or spectral activity. If it's moving away, then it's red shifted, moving towards it's blue shifted. Just like when a train comes by, if anybody doesn't understand. The train comes by, it's coming at you. It's at one sound level, and when it moves away from you, it's at a different zone level. Same
That's
same
right.
concept.
Exactly. Yeah. As a musician, yeah. When a race car goes by on the NASCAR, it's and that's the sound waves stretching out. Okay. Yes.
Let me finish my point there.
Oh, please.
That same idea comes into mind, that there is an intelligent level enough for us to be able to think about those things, and that's why we're here, is to think about those type of things. And as I said earlier, if you don't believe that there was a prime mover, then why do we have what exists?
Great question.
Why is there something rather than nothing?
Why is there something rather than nothing? The classic question between the Christian and the atheist, or the theist and the atheist. And the atheist, in my opinion, is comfortable with saying, I don't know. And the Christian's like, I can't say I don't know. I must know. So therefore, I will insert this answer this is just me talking, Kelly, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm going to insert this answer, which is comfortable for me, that I like, that a loving God who cares about me and cares about the things I do and will give me everlasting life when I die. He's the one who did it. Whereas I go,
that's a great option, Michael. That's where.
That is a great option. I would love that option if a loving God was looking out for me, but I just don't have any evidence for it.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing that level. All I'm at right now is just a theistic. That's all I'm doing.
Right.
When I get to Christianity, the other show will be happy. But the theist argument is that fact, that there is a creation, and people that are smart as Hawking and Penrose said that it had a start.
Yep.
And physics is the law of cause and effect. We have an effect, us.
Yeah,
we have an effect of all the things we see at night. I love astronomy. I love it.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Those things are things we can observe, that they are here. And if they had a start, which used to be static state, but that's gone now, everybody believes that that's not the case. I should say everybody, but most believe they're not the case. But once that happens, then you have to posit, okay, how it appear? Why did it appear? If you're looking at a painting, a painting, it's single dimensional.
Yeah.
I'll get to a book that I talked about. But a painting is single dimensional, but the person that created it's a three-dimensional. The three-dimensional being created the painting from his head first and from onto the paper on what he viewed in his mind. I'm not an artist. I don't know how they do that, but they do. And it looks great. But they can do that. They can bring it out. Now, there's a book called Mr. Flatland. It's Mr. Flatland, a divine romance, or excuse me, a dimensional romance. He explains this dimensional thing, about how that particular thing that I just talked about, a two-dimensional painting being painted by a three-dimensional being.
Right.
That's kind of the same level that I would believe God is. Mr. Flatland talks about that. He talks about the fact that he's talking about a dimension that's like this piece of paper.
Right.
It's just this way and this way. There's no third dimension of up and down. And as a three-dimensional being, I can stick my finger through that piece of paper, and the two-dimensional being has no idea where that came from.
Yeah.
So that's a miracle.
Right. Well, I'm going to point out very quickly that Carl Sagan did something very similar to this in the original Cosmos. In case anyone's wondering what Kelly's talking about, you can see an illustration of that in the original Cosmos.
Yeah, and there's a book out that I mentioned, Mr. Flatland, Dimensional Romance. And it's PDF. You don't have to buy it. It's so old that it's not PDF. But his point is that those things that we consider to be miracles, which a lot of people don't like that idea, but those things we consider to be miracles, if you take into the dimensions that we know exist, R4, having a start, then you see that the being that's above that, just like a being like me, if I make a painting that you wouldn't want to buy, I'm taking it from the three-dimensional being into a two-dimensional space.
Right. And I understand that concept, but you did say something that was objectively false. You said these dimensions that we know exist. We actually don't know they exist.
We know four of them exist.
Yeah, sure. Well,
time, space, matter, and energy.
Sure. Energy is a dimension. I was unaware of that. Time, I guess so, yeah. 3 dimensions is what you hear of most often.
Mm-hmm. Time's another one that they consider to be there, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
For sure. So, but anything more than that is speculation. So we don't know it exists.
It's ticking right now. We started about a half hour ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Time zero. It moves in.
Fast.
Absolutely. But when you give the example of the Mr. Two-dimensional or whatnot, you're saying that if a three-dimensional being were to insert themselves into his two-dimensional world, he would see that as a miracle. He wouldn't understand where they were coming from because they were coming out of another dimension.
You would understand what's going on.
He wouldn't understand it. Yeah, it would be magic to him in a sense. And you're saying that if you hypothesize and you accept that there's more dimensions than we can see or understand, and some scientists have hypothesized that, then God perhaps is a multi-dimensional being, or the prime mover is a multi-dimensional being, and that makes sense to you that they're in another dimension, or
That's my thought pattern, and I think it's like I said, I can't prove it beyond a possible doubt. I can prove it beyond. I think it proves itself beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, I mean, science doesn't go for beyond a reasonable doubt, as I'm sure you know. That's the American legal system, but science has a higher standard than beyond a reasonable doubt.
They want proof, don't they?
They want proof, but you don't take witnesses on the stand in science. Did you, in fact, create fusion in a tennis ball? Yes, I did. Well, there you have it. You got to recreate the fusion in a tennis ball if you're making the claim that you can create fusion in a tennis ball. They don't take eyewitness accounts. So the legal standard that you're talking about, beyond a reasonable doubt, in your opinion, I actually don't feel like you did reach that standard. But
give me another standard. Like I said when we started, if you disagree.
At BDO, we know it takes time to stay up to speed on the rapidly changing retail and consumer products industry. That's why we're doing the legwork for you in our new BDO podcast, 60 Second Retail. We'll keep you in the know on events and trends impacting your bottom line in just a few short minutes, so you can spend your time where it counts most, running your business. Check out the latest episode now at www.bdo.com/60-second-retail.
The best kept secret in D1 college basketball is out. California Baptist University's electric 5,050-seat Fowler Events Center Arena is the place for high-energy hoops, and Lancer Nation wants you to go crazy. Make the Lancers your hometown team and be a part of the excitement at CBU, just off the 91 freeway Adams Street exit in Riverside. Season tickets start at just $99 with free parking. Get your season tickets now at cbutickets.com. CBU basketball. Lance up.
Then you have to come up with something alternative.
Oh, actually,
otherwise you're just saying. Otherwise, you're just saying you believe.
No. I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying I don't know, Kelly. In fact, that's been my argument the entire time. That you say, where did the universe come from? I can't do any better than I don't know, and I actually don't have to come up with an alternate theory to counter yours, because I
just belief.
It's not belief.
Actually, these guys didn't like belief, only belief.
Okay,
because that's what I hear. Let me just finish this.
Okay,
that's
please.
what I hear about atheists complain about Christians is they have only belief. They have belief, but they don't have any proof.
Right.
Atheists complain about that, and I talk to atheists all the time. They say, "You guys, all you do is just believe what was written by some guy however many long years ago, flying spaghetti monster." Whatever. They say I have a simple belief. Well, I would disagree, because I have reasons to believe what I believe. But what you're saying, Mike, is that you only believe things, that you have no backup for. If you're going to go beyond just simple belief, you have to have proof, some sort of mechanism that would create the universe. And by the way, the same mechanism is faulty for evolution. If you want to get into that, I can. But right now, we're just on the universe. That's fine. But you mentioned evolution earlier. It's a tricky word. The fact of adaptation, like what Darwin saw, I believe that 100% everybody does. But the other parts,
not everybody, but okay, yeah. A lot of people on your team actually don't
say if they read Darwin's book and they saw what he saw, I can understand that. That's no problem.
Okay, before we jump on that, because I do want to jump on evolution, although I'm no biologist, I'm happy to do it. Let me just close out the universe and just be very clear. I don't believe anything in that sense. When you say, where did the universe come from? I say we don't. I'm holding off belief until there's enough evidence to support something. Then I would I would tend to say if the evidence is there, that is and it's not even a matter of belief. Science, in my opinion, doesn't give the right answer. It gives the best answer. And with new information comes new conclusions. And right now there's just not enough information to make any conclusion. And we all have that every day in life, where there's things where you just don't have enough information to come to a conclusion, you know?
That's an assertion you just made, Mike.
What's that?
There's enough evidence. You made an assertion.
I made an assertion that there's not enough evidence for me to come to a conclusion. Right.
The law of physics is enough.
Well, I'm just saying, if what you're positing was so convincing and you had made an argument beyond a reasonable doubt, I think that there'd be more physicists and that would agree with you. But unfortunately, the people who have the advanced degrees and really understand this stuff are on my side and say there's just not enough information to make a conclusion.
That's actually not true, Mike. There was a poll in 2009 they did of scientists.
Yeah.
Asked scientists, and they asked, "Does God exist?"
Right.
51% of the people, scientists responding said yes. God exists.
Yes. I did see that poll, and
this is the God, not just Christianity. This is God.
Right. Yeah. That particular poll.
And let me finish. Only
Okay.
41 or 42% said he doesn't. So the science is not on your side.
Well, that's not science. That's the beliefs of what you call scientists. And I think that particular poll included doctors and even like dentists as scientists. And when you go to the upper echelon of actual physicists who understand what we're talking about, which is the Big Bang and the moments at the creation of the universe, that number goes way, way, way down to the number of those scientists that believe in God is in the single digits, if I'm not mistaken.
You need to show me some proof on that, Mike.
And I'm looking it up right now. Ooh, you didn't show me any proof on your poll. I'm looking that up.
There, I told you when it was, 2009 Q poll.
Yeah. Well, let's look it up real quick and just find out. You say 51%?
51% believe there is God. God exists.
Okay.
Now, that's a general term. That doesn't mean the Christian God. I think 33% believe the Christian God exists. But overall, they believe God exists. And I think it's because it's hard to imagine things coming into existence from nothing. There needs to be a power and a decision made to make it at a certain point. Which, what we know, at a certain point, wherever you think that is, at a certain point, the universe began to exist. But if you want to move on to evolution, I'm fine with it.
No. I'm just looking into it, and it does. I'm not seeing exactly who was.
I don't think doctors are considered scientists, Mike. I think.
Right, but scientists could have belief too. Scientists could. You can go to the lab every day and be a biologist, and go home and burn some sage and put on a crystal for healing. The two, just because a scientist believes in science and something irrational doesn't. We're human beings. We have brains where we can do that. It's called cognitive dissonance, where you can believe two disparate things at the same time.
They can have cognitive dissonance as well.
So it was based on a broad group of scientists in the United States, scientists from various disciplines such as biology, physics, chemistry, social scientists, and engineering. So, I mean, there's a lot of scientists in there that actually wouldn't have any expertise on the creation of the universe or the start of the universe. So,
At BDO, we know it takes time to stay up to speed on the rapidly changing retail and consumer products industry. That's why we're doing the legwork for you in our new BDO podcast, 60 Second Retail. We'll keep you in the know on events and trends impacting your bottom line in just a few short minutes, so you can spend your time where it counts most, running your business. Check out the latest episode now at www.bdo.com/60-second-retail.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm just saying that if you are a social scientist...
I could say a social scientist may not have it.
What about an engineer? So there's nothing about being an engineer that would give you the skill set to believe or not.
Engineers would tell you, Mike, that they have to have intelligence to design things. They're engineered. That's what an engineer does.
Right. I understand that. But there is nothing specialized in their training that would give them enough information to say, I understand the start of the universe. I understand the Big Bang to a degree that would make me say it had to have been a god. An engineer does not have that skill set or that knowledge base. And the scientists that do have that knowledge base
say that. They said they believe that God exists based on the facts. Based on what they can observe, God exists. 51%.
I'm just going to look up at what percentage of physicists believe in God and see what happens. See what answer I get, because that would be far more relevant to me. 7% of physicists believe in God. And those are the ones who would actually have an understanding of...
Where do you get that from?
Published in Nature, focused on the National Academy of Sciences. That physicists and other natural scientists, about 7% believed in a personal God.
Well, that's different. You're talking about a personal God. There's lots of them. Einstein didn't believe in a personal God, but he believed there was a prime mover.
I've seen that's been disputed. That, in fact, I think Einstein himself disputed that he believed in a prime mover. But again, we could just sit here and Google who believed in what until the cows come home. I stand by my assertion that if you're asking engineers and chemists if they believe in a personal God, that their opinion is the same as asking a TV repairman or, a professional comedian if they believe in God. Their skill set doesn't involve having a specialized skill that would give them any expertise on the creation of the universe. And that the people who do study that, it's far more relevant to me that it's a very low percentage of them that believe in God.
But that's not the Pew poll side. And discounting everything on the atheist side, Mike, you're not looking at all on the the theist side. You're not looking at all on the atheist side. Why do they think that God doesn't exist? Where is their mechanism for the universe coming into existence?
Right. It's a question mark. They don't know, Kelly. It's that simple. They don't know.
Into being. They don't know that. And they've given up on trying to figure it out.
No, they have not given up on trying to figure it out, Kelly. They certainly have. No, they have absolutely not. Science hasn't given up on trying to figure anything out.
Information in DNA coming into existence, they don't know how that happened. They've given up on it.
No, Kelly, they most certainly have not. That you're a very reasonable person, and the idea that scientists have given up on trying to figure out how DNA came into
it on a regular basis. And I know when I ask them that question, it's always I don't know.
Right. Well, here's the thing. There's a big difference between an atheist and a scientist, or an atheist and a biologist.
Too. I talked to Ben, Dr. Ben. He's on Facebook. You may have seen him. I asked him that question directly. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
it's covered information. Mike.
I don't know. I'm the proponent for I don't know. Okay.
That's a cop-out.
No, it's not a cop-out. I don't know is actually to make something up and put it into where the question mark should be. That's the cop-out. The I don't know is uncomfortable. The I don't know sucks. I am living on a rock in an infinite vacuum trying to figure my life out. And it's much more difficult than saying a 2,000-year-old book has all the answers. And I do know that God put me here and he has a purpose for my life and he wrote down instructions. That's, in my opinion, the cop-out, because that's a much easier answer. It's much harder to say, I don't know why I'm here. And I have to figure out my own personal belief in why I'm here and what I'm in.
Michael, you're the one that brought the Bible in. I didn't. I said at the start, we're going to go just for theism.
Okay. But let's take the Bible out of it and just simply say, I think it's much easier to say, I do know how the universe got here. God did it. And then just say.
No, it's not a God did it thing, Mike. That's just.
Okay. A prime mover did it.
Okay. That's a cop. I'm giving you reasons why that's the case. And you can't give a reason why it isn't.
No, the reasons you're giving me is.
You're trying to think that either the universe has always existed, which is against physics, or you're saying that there's somehow or another it just popped into existence from who knows what.
Right. Well, I am saying I don't know. And what you're doing is the equivalent of just saying, well, what else could it be? But Kelly, all you're saying is, what else could it be? So 2,000 years ago, when the earth shook, When the earth shook and there were earthquakes.
Why are you not giving me one? You want explanations from me. Why aren't you giving me one?
Again, the burden of proof, as we talked about at the beginning, is
okay.
Kelly, look, this is what you're doing. Let me be clear.
I can prove a negative, Mike. There's no married bachelors. You can prove a negative. All you have to do is give me reasons why the universe came into existence that doesn't include a prime mover. You have to give me reasons. You want reasons from me. I want reasons from you.
Okay, let me give you an example of the way knowledge works. So, 2,000 years ago, it was pretty well established that the earth shook when God was angry at people because they did something wrong. The Bible even has examples of this. And so somebody would say, why does the earth shake? And one guy might say, I don't know. And then the other guy goes, it must be a God. And you'd say, why must it be a God? And the other guy says, what else could it be? Because they had no idea that there were these tectonic plates under the earth. There was no way for them to know. It was outside of their ability to know this.
And so things are outside of their ability. That doesn't mean.
But the what else could it be has never been a good answer. In fact, its track record is terrible. It's called God of the Gaps, Kelly, and I know you know this and you've heard this.
I gave you reasons why the universe came into existence. I gave you reasons. I haven't done God of the Gaps yet. I get accused of that on a regular basis, and I never do it. I give reasons why things exist. Cause and effect is a physics law. That is not God of the Gaps. That's a physics law.
Your reasons are what else could it be other than a prime
cause and effect, Mike. That's a physics law.
Right. Cause and effect is a real thing. Yes.
God of the Gaps. I'm not doing that. And I get accused of that regularly. And I do the same thing that I'm doing with you. God of the Gaps is not my argument. I've given you reasons why things exist.
You have all we did
existence at a certain point in time. You're saying it's just magic, or you're refusing.
I'm not saying magic. I'm saying
that the prime mover, and you did at the start.
We agreed at the start. There must be a cause. There has to be a reason the universe came into existence, and now I'm even willing to hedge on that and say my primal lizard brain might not
out of the gap.
Right, and then all you've done is make up reasons that cause had or have a brain. You've said that it was a decision, and that for a decision to be made, you must have a decision maker. But we established that the natural world has a lot of things happen that don't have a decision maker. No one made the decision for Mount St. Helens to blow its top in 1984, but it did.
It's cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Something caused the universe. It's here. Beyond that, I don't know that you've proven anything or made any argument other than what else could it be?
I proved there's a causer. Beyond a reasonable doubt. You have no explanation otherwise.
Say that again, because I didn't quite catch that.
I said, I have proven that there is a causal agent. I've demonstrated the fact that is reasonable to believe. You're not positing anything. You're positing I don't know. But you could know. Because the physics principle of cause and effect is valid. It's not something the creation is made up.
It seems to me you would have a Nobel Prize in physics if your argument was as solid as you think.
Another one that I always hear, Mike, I didn't apply for a Nobel Prize in physics. As a matter of fact, since you brought it up, only 6 or 7% of atheists win Nobel Prizes. 6 to 7%.
Right.
80 or 90% are Christians.
But what you know that the Nobel Prizes there's prizes across a wide
variety, and the atheists win about 5 or 6% of them.
Right, but the Nobel Prizes in physics, I would say, almost always go to atheists.
5 or 6%. Right?
Okay, again, you're just talking about humans, fallible humans with various degrees of specialty.
You're the one that brought up Nobel Prizes, not me.
My point about the Nobel Prize was that people who can prove things in science beyond a reasonable doubt, and particularly revolutionary things that change everyone's perspective and give solid answers to deep, deep questions, those people win Nobel Prizes. And nobody has won the Nobel Prize for I proved God or even a prime mover yet.
And most of them are Christians and theists, Mike, and only 5 or 6% of them are atheists. You can look that up.
And I'd be happy to, and I will.
Find out that I'm telling you this.
Kelly, I believe you're a truth teller. I have not accused you of anything but it. I think you're.
I don't make stuff up. When I say something, I've got documents for it. I can document.
And I think that's great. I just don't think that the conclusions you're reaching are the correct conclusions, that there's nothing wrong with a question mark. And I'm going to make a quick announcement and we can move on to evolution, because I don't know that we're going to knock the Big Bang out of the park today. Neither of us is getting the Nobel Prize today, Kelly. I make that prediction. But if you have information and you want to jump into this conversation, go to dogmadebate.com, join the Patreon. The conversation always continues at dogmadebate.com. Extra content, extra log shows, and of course there is the message boards where we all talk about all this stuff. So you got something to say about the number of atheists that have won the Nobel Prize, or the number of scientists that identify as theist, come on down, dogmadebate.com. We want to hear from you guys. Okay, so Kelly, you again, I'm not a biologist, but I love arguing these things. So you seem to think that evolution, as it's understood by top tier evolutionary biologists, currently is flawed, right? Is that what I'm getting from you? That you believe that Darwin is onto something, common descent, but that somewhere along the way.
No, I don't believe that. Let me tell you.
Okay.
So, whatever Darwin saw. The fact that bird beaks get larger and smaller, the lizards that were on different islands ate out of the ocean instead of on land, those are all reasonable. I got no problem with that. That's adaptation. In my opinion, evolution has stolen adaptation and tried to make more out of it. What is, and I'll use the word nonsensical, is the idea of one family of animals changing into a different family of animals. That's nonsense. That's never been proven. And the mechanism that you use to get there is mutation, mutation, time, and the survival of the fittest. That mechanism doesn't work because it's contrary to itself. Let me tell you why. Let me explain to you why I think it's contrary to itself.
Okay.
First of all, time is not your ally; it's your enemy. Things do not get better over time; they get worse. It's called entropy. Number two, mutation has never been shown to provide new, previously non-existing information inside DNA. It's never been proven to be able to do that. Survival of the fittest actually works against the long, slow process of Darwinian evolution. It works against it because it's useless appendage. Let me just finish. It's useless appendage that appears. So, for example, wings on a dinosaur, they're completely useless until they're fully developed, which, according to the theory, takes literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of years to do. So that creature that's got this useless appendage hanging off its side is less able to compete with ones that don't. I think the entire message and the entire mechanism behind evolution is false, and it's contradictory to itself.
Okay, so first off, when you talk about time and evolution, I think this is always a sticking point when it comes to people trying to understand how we got from, the single cell organisms to the variety of animals that exist today. And that is because, again, we talked about this. We actually have evolved brains. Our evolved brains are evidence not only for evolution, but are evidence for why we have a hard time comprehending evolution. And that is these vast periods of time where these little changes pile up and equal big changes are incomprehensible to the human mind. There's nothing about our evolved brain that made it so that we should be able to comprehend the concept of the number 1 million or even 1 billion, much less 4.5 billion years, which is how long the Earth has been here, about 3.5 billion, I believe, since multi-celled organisms began to multiply on the Earth. So let me ask you this, Kelly, and this is just a little thing I like to do, and maybe since you're so great at arguing with us atheists, this is maybe something you've already had to do before and you're ready to knock it out of the park. But I like to say to people, and I can see Kelly and Kelly can see me, just to anyone listening right now, when I say, without doing any math, could you roughly show me what an inch is using your thumb and index finger?
I could get this wrong, but let's assume that it's about that much.
Yeah, I think you got it about right. Now, without doing any math, because you understand the concept of 6, can you show me roughly what 6 inches would be?
Oh boy.
Hold it a little higher, because
maybe there.
At BDO, we know it takes time to stay up to speed on the rapidly changing retail and consumer products industry. That's why we're doing the legwork for you in our new BDO podcast, 60 Second Retail. We'll keep you in the know on events and trends impacting your bottom line in just a few short minutes, so you can spend your time where it counts most, running your business. Check out the latest episode now at www.bdo.com/60-second-retail.
Nah, not quite.
What's up?
Sell my car on Carvana. It's just not quite the right time.
Crazy coincidence. I just sold my car to Carvana.
What? I told you about it 2 days ago.
When you know, you know. You know? I'm even dropping it off at one of those sweet car vending machines and getting paid today.
That's a good deal.
Oh, great deal. Come on. What's your heart saying?
You're right. When you know...
You know.
Sold.
Whether you're looking to sell your car right now or just whenever feels right, go to Carvana.com and sell your car the convenient way. Terms and conditions apply.
I think that's about right. Yeah, that one looks about right. Yeah, and which shows me that you both understand the concept of an inch and the concept of 6.
I have a brain.
Yeah, exactly. And you're clearly a smart guy. So moving forward, could you snap your fingers about a second apart? That's about right. So you understand the concept of a second. And so could you, without doing any math, quickly tell me what a million seconds is?
A lot.
What period of time?
60, I could give you hours.
Sure. I mean, without doing any math, just show me you understand the concept. What is the ballpark?
It's less than 2 million.
And but what is a million seconds?
More than 500,000.
Yes. Could you translate it to hours or days or whatever it is that you think it is?
With math, I could, sure.
No, I'm asking you not to do math, to show that you understand the concept, that it's something that
minus math, I don't think you can.
Right.
No matter how you're going to do it, if you're good enough and you're smart enough, then you could probably do that in your head.
Right, but it's not about doing it in your head. It's not a math question. It's a concept.
I don't have to use a calculator.
You understand the concept of a million, where you could even ballpark it because you understand the concept.
I understand the concept of it, sure.
But
because there's
ballpark it for me.
Planet, I can understand that.
Well, ballpark a million seconds for me.
You can't analyze it. But
I'm just asking you to ballpark it to see if you understand the concept of a million, because you showed me that you understand the concept of 1 second. So what would a million of those be?
999,000 more than one.
The answer is about 13 days.
I don't know what you want me to answer it.
I don't, because the point is, and then when you ask the same person to then tell you what a billion seconds is, they tend to get that very wrong too. I've done this many, many times, and human beings don't comprehend a million or a billion. So when we're talking about a billion years of evolution, this is something you couldn't possibly comprehend.
Well, of course I can comprehend it. You got to have a mechanism. The mechanism is required, Mike, and you're not getting to the mechanism. I don't care how long a time you got. Over time, things don't get better; they get worse.
No, you're talking about the concept of entropy, and that is
entropy, and they get worse. They don't get better; they get worse. Things deteriorate; they don't get better.
Okay, that is the concept of entropy.
What's the mechanism for it all? DNA, Mike, DNA has information in it. It's an information-rich molecule. And we all know that. That's not just some creationist thing. That's given science.
Wait, say that again?
That's information is resident in DNA, instructions to build life. That's not a creationist thing. That's just simple fact. That's the way it is.
Yes. The DNA in every one of our cells holds the blueprints for our entire cell.
That's how a detective and a crime scene can point to a single person because their DNA is there. And it's like nobody else's DNA. So DNA is an information-rich molecule, and information has one causal agent, one. And no less than NASA has came to that same conclusion with their SETI program. The SETI program was intended to send out information in the form of beeps of prime numbers up to 111. They sent it out expecting whoever received it would understand that it came from an alien civilization. Now, they got a little nervous about who they were going to receive it. Maybe we get predators that come back at us. But they stopped sending it out. They just started listening. But they were determined and came to the logical conclusion that if anyone received those beeps that they sent out into space, the prime numbers, I'm not going to go through them, I'll get one or two of them wrong, but those prime numbers, when received, they would know they came from an alien civilization because it's a coded information stream. The genetic code inside DNA is no different. It's a genetic code with information and instructions on how to build life. How did the original code get here?
Well, I mean, there are answers to that.
No, there's not.
Yeah, well, it started with RNA, and again, I'm not a biologist. I'm curious, Kelly.
Including biologists for 20 years, and they've never had a mechanism for it. Even Dawkins has now submitted to the fact that it's probably he said it was panspermia, the fact that aliens planted it here. That's not the answer. That is pushing it back a step.
No, panspermia is speculation, but that doesn't. No. Kelly, I think you have some misinformation there. And scientists don't have no idea how DNA got started or how it works as a mechanism. I'm not a biologist, but I've never come across that they're just like, we don't know where it came from. It could be aliens. No, that is not what biologists believe.
Oh, sure it is. Mike, look up panspermia.
I know what panspermia is. Panspermia is the idea that life started on another planet, traveled here possibly on a meteor or an asteroid or something like that, and seeded the Earth with life.
And it doesn't solve the problem. It just pushes it back.
Right, but that's just a fringe theory, Kelly. Biologists aren't working off of panspermia. They're working off of the idea. What I understand, again, is that it's the abiogenesis that remains mysterious to us. What was the first? Very much so. But that DNA is not as mysterious as you think it is. I think you're a little outdated in your understanding of how it works.
Very, very, very logical. It's information, construction concept. You can watch happen in the womb. At a certain point, each particular aspect of the human body is formed, and it's formed at a particular pace. And you can watch it happen in the womb. This isn't creationist stuff, right? This is just facts.
Right. But the fact of the matter is that this is like looking up at the clouds and seeing faces. We're seeing what we want. When you say information in DNA, we're talking about chemical reactions, but that they have to give these things names. And when you give DNA the different names, it looks like a code. It looks like a code by the human eye. It looks like an intelligent code, but it's not. That's us putting the faces in the cloud as we try and understand this natural process in terms that we understand.
That's nonsense, Mike.
Instructions. But you say it's nonsense, Kelly.
And if you try to say that information or instructions, they don't really mean information or instructions, then I wonder why they use that term. In every single website you want to go to, they'll say instructions, they'll say the RNA.
Blueprints, instructions, all of these things. I'm talking about...
Why are they using that word, Mike, if it's not meaning? Why would they use that word if they don't mean that word?
I'm not saying that the word isn't an apt word. I'm saying when we talk about information, people's brains go to computers. When we talk about codes, we go to binary code. We go to the various codes that we understand. And one says, this sounds like an intelligent person put this code into the DNA, but that's not really what's happening. That's us seeing the faces in the cloud. And it, as always, Kelly, the question always is, why do biologists disagree with you? Why the more somebody studies this subject, do they become less religious?
You think as soon as somebody gets a couple letters next to their name, bias goes out the window. That's nonsense. They're just as biased for what they have based on the fact that they get research money. Maybe they've written a book on it.
No.
People to read it.
Kelly, we already talked about the Nobel Prize. What do you think?
Find their name doesn't mean they're not biased. Of course they're biased.
How much research money, how many accolades, how many magazine covers, if I can speak like a middle-aged man, would come to the scientist? How many Nobel Prizes, how much research money, how much fame and notoriety would come to the scientist that could prove an intelligence behind DNA? That the bias is all in science. The bias to overturn the conventional wisdom is the stronger bias. The motivation to be the person that overturned the apple cart and said, you're all wrong. You all had it wrong and I have it right. That person would become the richest, the most famous of the scientists. And what you're talking about is intelligent design, which was shot down. It was shot down actually in federal court, intelligent design.
Well, no, they did that as being instructed, and they assumed that it came from promoting God. which design element is not necessarily promoting God, although I believe it's an easy assumption to make. But the assumption that you just made, Mike, as far as biology goes, it may be that most biologists believe in evolution. It may be. And you go to the math department, and they'll tell you how the staggering odds are against it. Staggering odds against it. I'll give you one. Fred Hoyle, knighted British mathematician and an atheist. Once he started looking at what the real definition of the DNA molecule is, he gave the odds of, and he was very generous, I thought, from the first cell to human life, 1 chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. British mathematician, knighted for math. That's the odds he gave. Carl Sagan gave even worse in his Cosmos series. He gave the odds of evolution happening anywhere else in the universe were in the universe. So he gave the odds of it happening anywhere else. 1 chance in 10 to the 2 billionth power. Those are the odds in math against silly evolution.
What understanding did they have of biology? You're talking about Carl Sagan's been dead for 30 years, so he obviously didn't have a modern concept of biology at all. He had a relatively modern.
He knew what we know now.
He did not know what we know now. By definition, knowledge builds.
He knew that, and so did Hoyle.
Okay, so when was Hoyle again?
I could be wrong about Hoyle knowing about the instructions and information, but he knows what happens in the womb.
But I'm just saying, what year was it? What understanding of biology was he working off of?
He was a man of the 40s.
The 40s. Okay, so that's quite a long time ago. So he was working.
It was a long time ago, but he was a mathematician.
Darwin was working a long time ago. You and I know more about biology than Charles Darwin knew about biology.
The episode continues. Go to dogmadebate.com, get extra content, extra long episodes, and join the message boards. Be a part of the conversation. dogmadebate.com.